Welcome back to All Stars TV as we count down to the 2024 edition of Bauer Arena Ice Sheffield. First weekend in August 2nd to the 4th, Friday night launch party, and then games all through Saturday and Sunday. Another great interview we have this evening. Delighted to be joined by, if you listened to Rick Strang's interview earlier on All Stars TV, we're going to get another side of that particular story. Delighted to be joined by Craig and Rosie Poynter. Craig and Rosie, thanks for joining us here on All Stars TV.
How's it going, Craig? You all right?
I'm good, Craig. It sounds a stupidly simple question, Craig, but how are you?
Better than the last time you saw me, yeah. No, all good. Thank you, and enjoying a second go at it, I guess.
Yeah, and belated many happy returns as well. It was I don't want to say the age, but was it birthday a couple of weeks ago as well?
Yeah. So obviously, what we're calling them now, bonus birthdays. So.
Yeah, your first bonus birthday and the penultimate one before the big 4-0.
Yeah, so 9 and all good.
Sounds good. Well, I've had an old birthday as well, so we'll keep them coming as well. That's good stuff. Obviously, Rosie and Craig, we'll plenty to talk about tonight, but I suppose we have to start kind of last July. The campaign that kicked off was because of the incident that happened with you, Craig. It's again a stupid kind of question, but how much of it do you remember of the incident on the Saturday afternoon?
Weirdly, quite a lot, to be honest. It's one of those things, you hear a lot of people's stories and things, but for me, I was very aware in the build up to it happening. I can remember, actually going down and then actually, waking up back on the ice, and I was almost instantly aware of where I was, and I think the guys were actually having to hold me down a little bit because I was trying to sit up and say, look, let me get off and let the guys carry on playing. And so, yeah, quite a lot about the feeling and actually going down and then coming around again.
Yeah. And then obviously after the treatment on the ice, taken into Cardiff, the cardiac unit, you had the stents pretty much there and then, and that was that sort of thing.
Yeah, it all happened quite quickly, to be honest. So I was trying to get up on the ice, and the guys were like, "No, stay still. You're not moving anywhere." And I think when I looked over and saw the sort of heli medics sort of running over in the red outfits, and I was just sort of like, "Well, hang on a minute, what are they doing here?" And then from that sort of moment, I sort of did what I was told. But I was just so fortunate, really. Obviously, Rick went through it really, really well in terms of the treatment I got. I couldn't have got better treatment, and because I had that treatment so quickly, then by the time I was in the ambulance, I was sat up, I was having conversations, and then by the time I got to the actual hospital, I was back to laughing and joking with the nurses a little bit, and Rosie and I'm sure Rick and them guys will tell you that's almost unheard of. Even to where the doctor was sort of saying, hang on a minute, what's happened to this guy? And you had to keep going and double checking. But obviously, there was a lot to go through after that. But at that time, I felt pretty good. Weirdly, sounds stupid to say, but it was all down to that initial care, really.
And the heart attack itself, it's when you had the operation, did they tell you it was kind of something that could have happened at any moment? It was just fortunate, I suppose, it happened when you were surrounded by so many medical people.
100%. There is a bad heart history in my family, but at the time I had no reason to believe that I was susceptible for what happened. And I think in the second game, I actually probably had a minor heart attack there. I thought my chest was just tightening. I thought I might have needed my inhaler. I've been off the ice for a couple of years. I thought I might just actually this unfit. Had a little break, went into the third game again, felt the same sort of sensation. I sat out a couple of shifts, and then stupidly my final words would have been, actually, do you know what? I think I've got one more shift in me. And then went back on the ice. But when I was in with the doctor, he was sort of, did you seem fit, healthy and well? Let's go in and have a look. And then that's when he started finding the blockages. And then he said, "What's your family history like?" And as soon as I mentioned it, he's like, "Right, we're gonna probably find a few." And there was 3. I think 2 of them were 100% blocked, and one of them was a 90-something% blocked. So
Yeah.
Quite serious, but also in a weird way, very, very lucky it happened where it did, because it could have happened back at the hotel or on a night out in Cardiff. So it was one of those right place, right time sort of scenarios, really.
Yeah, and I said to Rick when we had Rick on, the kind of people who were around you. Obviously, Rick's A&E trauma. You had a police medic. Jordan's a cardiac nurse in the hospital that you were taken to. She works in that theatre. There was a couple of GPs. There was so many kind of medical people there. Stupidly thing to say, it probably couldn't have happened in a better place.
No, 100%. I think Rosie will tell you, you probably couldn't have got better care actually in a hospital at that time. The amount of people that was there, and they knew exactly what to do. And obviously having the defib at the rink, and it was picked up so quick. Just perfect timing for a bad thing to happen. But I've seen.
Well,
I was just saying, I've seen
defibs. Yeah, we'll come into the defibs in a minute. But Rosie, if we can bring you in on this, you packed Craig off for a weekend away. You were at home. Yeah. What was the first? You obviously knew what was going on.
Yeah, so I'd been out at a Pride event with the boys, actually. So we just got back. It was tea time. Craig had rung me after the second game and had told me that he didn't feel so good. And we'd had a conversation about, should he play? Are you okay? And he said he kind of told me that it was fine. So I just said, right, okay, well, I'm going to sort the boys' tea out, and I'll speak to you after the final game. So I got home and I was halfway through making dinner for the boys, and a number came up on my phone that I didn't recognise. And initially, I didn't answer it, and I thought something in me then just went, no, Craig's playing hockey. You need to answer it. And I answered the phone, and it was Rick. And he said to me, "Hi, my name's Rick. I'm a nurse, but I play hockey with Craig." And so I initially just very kind of jokingly went, "Oh yeah, what's happened?" Thinking that maybe he'd done his knee, because the amount of times over the years that people have rung me and told me that Craig's ended up in A&E when he's done his knees, or has had some sort of minor injury. And Rick said to me, he's collapsed and he's not very well. And I said, well, okay, well, what's happened though? No, because I make phone calls like that, very, very often. And the line that he said to me, that where I knew that I got this sinking feeling, was that he said to me, "Is there someone with you at the moment, or are you on your own?" And I knew, because I've said that to patients' families before myself, I knew that he was about to tell me something that I really, really didn't want to hear. And he told me that the air ambulance were taking Craig to Cardiff, and that he'd suffered a cardiac arrest. And then I started, and again, poor Rick, he didn't know what I did for a living at this point. We'd never met, and we hadn't had this conversation. And so I started barraging him with questions. Did you do CPR on him? And Rick was like, yeah. I was like, did you get a defib on him? Yeah, we gave him a shock. And then I just said to him, is he alive, Rick? And I think he said something along the lines of, he was alive when he left us. And then I said to him, I need to get off the phone now, and I will ring you back. And so then I rang my dad, and just very, very briefly said to him, Craig's had a cardiac arrest. I need you to drive me to Cardiff. And I think I was still in a bit of a state of shock at that point. And then I put the phone down, and then I carried on making dinner for the boys. Because I didn't really know what else to do with myself at that point. I think the adrenaline was running pretty high, so I finished making the hot dogs for the boys, and then my dad and Craig's mum got in a car, and we drove to Cardiff. And pretty much the whole journey to Cardiff, Craig was in surgery.
So, well, by that time, the boys had got all my stuff together.
Yeah.
So I had a bag of my stuff in the ambulance. And I said, "Oh look, ring my wife. She is a paramedic, so just tell her exactly what's happened." Obviously, I didn't know Rick had called by the time, and So you had a chat with the guys in the ambulance as well, didn't you? And they were obviously prepared for you to know what you're talking about. So.
The air ambulance doctor rang me on the way in and explained to me kind of what his observations were looking like and where we were at kind of in terms of his status, and that was really useful for me because it kind of lowered that panic a little bit for me, because again, doing the job that I do, you know, Rick will have told you on the last interview just how rare it is that people survive a cardiac arrest out of hospital. You know, you're talking in the single figures percentages, and so as soon as I knew that he'd had a cardiac arrest, my first assumption was that he hadn't survived, and then if he was you know, if he was to have survived, that he was probably going to have some really long-term neurological impact as a result of that. And to hear that he was fully alert and that he was talking was a massive reassurance for me. The drive to Cardiff was a long one because he was in surgery for most of the time. And again, knowing how long these procedures normally take and the fact that it was taking longer than it should have done was really, really worrying for me. But once we'd got to the hospital and we'd seen that Craig was okay, Craig's mum and I then made our way back to the hotel, and we went to the hotel that all the teams were staying at, and we got back really late. It was about midnight, and I walked into the hotel lobby, and the guy behind the desk said to me, "Are you Craig's wife?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "You need to go into the bar. There's people waiting for you." And I walked into the bar, and half of the Dreams team were sat there waiting for me, and they'd been waiting for quite some time. I think quite happily because they were having a drink, but they'd been sat waiting to welcome me at the hotel that night, and they bought me several gin and tonics, and they got me settled in Craig's room. They'd moved a few of the boys around. And that, for me, was the start of the my introduction to the All Stars family. And I'd been to watch Craig play at tournaments in the past, but I'd never really experienced that feeling of and that understanding of just how much of a family it is. And what they did for me over that weekend, I don't think I can ever repay, because being on my own, being in an unfamiliar city, being in a really, really traumatic environment, having the welcome and having the support that I got from the Dreams team, and then also getting to meet everybody that was part of Craig's care that next day was just amazing for us.
Yeah, so getting back to the rink on that Sunday, then when obviously on the Saturday the tournament had finished early. Obviously we didn't know, we knew what had happened and we knew Craig was in hospital, but obviously a lot of people didn't know. So when we came back on the Sunday, it still wasn't 100% whether it was continuing or what. So when we made the decision we were going to continue, the tournament would finish, we had word that Craig had the operation and was conscious and talking and wanted to come back and play and finish his shift, because that's the kind of thing that hockey players do. Like you say, coming to say meet the gang. So obviously Kelly was the I think one kind of looked after you through the day, introduced you to everybody. What was kind of Sunday like? Can you remember much of Sunday, or was it a bit of a daze?
It was really, really emotional. It was really, really emotional, but also it was quite therapeutic for me, because I got to meet every single person that had involvement in Craig's care that day. I got to listen to their stories. I got to thank them and hug them, and they got to talk to me. And I think they'll equally agree that it was really therapeutic for them to be able to talk me through what had happened. And it built this picture. You know, there were moments, Craig was talking about how his tongue hurt, and we couldn't understand why his tongue was really, really bruised and hurt. And initially I thought maybe he'd fallen on his face when he'd gone down, but actually from speaking to Rick, we realised that he'd had a seizure before he'd gone into cardiac arrest, and that he'd bitten his tongue, and that's why his tongue was so sore. And so being able to kind of piece those little bits together, I think are really important when anyone goes through a trauma. And being able to be in the rink and see the point on the ice where he'd gone down. There was really very little else I could do because the visiting hours were so strict. Because Craig was needing that time to recover, I wasn't actually allowed on the ward for most of the day, and so my phone was going off from people back home wanting updates, understandably, and I just needed to be somewhere. And there was, I didn't want to be sat in the hotel room. My dad and Craig's mum had already gone back home by this point because they came back up to Nottingham to look after the children, help my mum look after the kids. So I was on my own. But at no point did I feel like I was on my own because Kelly didn't leave my side, Jordan didn't leave my side, Ashley and Andy and Rick and everybody and Mike, they all made sure that whatever I needed was there. And so I'm really, really glad that I got to go. And then I got to meet Scarlett's mum and dad. And had a really, really good chat with them about the Scarlett Award and what it meant to them to have that award given out. And I think it was very, very quickly decided amongst everybody that for this year or for that year that it shouldn't just go to one person, it should go collectively to everybody that helped with Craig's care. And they very, very kindly agreed to let me help give out that award, and so I got to kind of formally thank everybody that was part of his care as well.
And that was that Scarlett Award presentation was, I think for everybody quite an emotional time, but quite a. I think we've said it before. The whole thing was kind of peak. What we said, peak All Stars. It's like an All-Star goes down, so obviously a group of All-Stars is going to come to his aid, and he's going to be all right, and everything's going to be fine, and it's just everybody pulling together, and it's what All-Stars do, and kind of the aftermath, which we'll talk about in a minute as well. Again, it shows that the All-Stars, it's more than just the fundraising, the weekend. It's bigger than that event, and the campaign that we'll talk about in a minute, kind of followed on from that, and again shows the benefits of the campaign, but obviously trying to make some good out of what could have been a bad situation. For yourself, Craig, the obviously back on the ward from the operation. How long were you in Cardiff Hospital for?
I think it was about 3 or 4 days in total. The hospital were great. It was really, really slick, really nice staff, and I think they were great with me. The care I got while I was in there was first class, really, and I think it's a good extension of what happened at the rink. The guys carried on the care really well, but it was just good that I knew that Rosie would be sort of looked after at the rink. She said to me, "Oh, what should I do?" I was like, "Well, just get yourself down the rink, just go down," and knowing what ice hockey is all about, but also especially the All Stars. I was like, get down there. The guys will look after you. And from the first moment she got there, like back to the hotel, it was just great for Team Dreams to sort of be looking after her and sorting her room out. And I just knew I didn't have to worry about any of that sort of thing, so I could just get on with recovery. And weirdly, I keep getting hit every time I say it, but I felt okay considering. I think the worst things were the ribs, which was a result of good CPR. So I'm not going to hold that against the guys too much, but
thanks, Andy.
Yeah, but yeah, so a couple of broken ribs and a bruised tongue. Everything else seemed fine. So just sitting up in bed and hearing the messages from the guys and having video calls with Rosie and the guys at the rink, it was it was good. It was nice to still sort of feel involved in a way, if that makes sense. But it was it was all right. All things considered.
I mean, so how quickly after, obviously the event finished on the Sunday, and I think it was kind of the Monday or the Tuesday that the first thoughts of this All Star Save My Life campaign kind of came to fruition.
Yeah.
How do you remember how it's kind of started from your side?
I think what happened was that as people got back to wherever they'd come from, and they got back to their teams, everyone, I think for quite some time, was really reflective over what had happened over the weekend. And they started going back to their teams and having conversations about, this is what's happened at the All-Stars. Do we have a defibrillator? Have we got people that know what to do? Because Craig's only here because there were at least 4 or 5 people that knew exactly what to do. What does that look like for our rink, and what does that look like for our team? And I think the scary thing is that there were a substantial number of ice rinks across the UK that either didn't have a defib on site at all, or only had one during certain times. And I think the momentum of the weekend, coupled with people's fear of what had happened, really spurred people on, didn't it? To want to then try and do something, try and make good of the bad.
I think for me, it was, I'm always quite proactive, and like I said, I just wanted to get the most out of it and make sure everyone's efforts wasn't in vain. You've seen it with football. Some high-profile guys go down. We had a couple of cases in Nottingham where local teams had cardiac arrests and young players, old players going down. And we were getting messages about speaking to newspapers, speaking to radio. Vanessa Phelps got us on her sort of national TV show. And we were like, well, hang on a minute. I'm not just going to go on and talk about me. I want to talk about, what the guys did and what can actually come out of this. I wanted to make sure it wasn't just me saying, oh, woe is me, this happened. And it's sad. It was more about, right, that how can we use this and actually get a message out there that, ice hockey through, underfunding or whatever other reason can be a little bit slow. Obviously, I think, following on from my incident, and then more importantly with the Adam Johnson thing, we've seen that actually, do you know what, enough people talking about it and enough, chat around social media and getting the word out there, things can actually happen quite quickly. So it was almost, strike while the iron's hot and get the message out. Wow, yes, it's emotive, and yes, it's fresh in everyone's mind, and let's be proactive. Let's do something now. And obviously, everyone just jumped on it. Obviously, cross-check and the All-Star committee and everyone just got straight on it. And I think there was a couple of defibs in place within the month, and then we just had
a couple of weeks,
yeah. And it just shows the power that the All-Stars has outside of one weekend of hockey. It actually rightly so has a bigger outreach and can have a bigger impact on the sport generally. And I think it highlights again though, ice hockey needs to talk a lot more within itself. You've got the elite league. You say you have to have a defib at games. Does that happen at the lower leagues? Does that happen at juniors? Does that happen at rec? No. And we found out that some ice rinks have a defib, but it's locked in an office. So when the manager goes home, it's locked in the office. And I think the problem, it needed talking about. It needed awareness.
Yeah. And you see, you're wearing the t-shirts. That was the first fundraising that we did, was the All-Star Save My Life t-shirts, which were a huge success. They sold in their hundreds, and that was all obviously Crosscheck designed them and produced them for us, and the funds from that all went into the campaign, and that was kind of the kickstart of the fundraising. Yeah,
and the turnaround was unreal. It was so quick getting these out, and it was it's great.
Yeah, and we're really glad. We're really grateful to Crosscheck for getting on board with that. We've also had support from Willis that supply.
Well, they did a big net guard campaign, and some of the profits they made from that, they ring fenced and put into the All-Star Save My Life campaign as well.
They were getting lots of sales for net guards off the back of what had happened with Adam Johnson, and they, I think, morally felt that they couldn't profiteer off the back of such a tragic event, and so wanted to be able to pass forward some of those profits. And so they selected our campaign as one of the recipients of some of those profits. And so the money that they gave and the money from Crosscheck has meant that we've been able to buy 2 more defibs. And so that's fantastic. And we've got money in the pot now for at least another 2 more. I've got a defib that was donated through London Hearts, which is a charity that's been supporting us over the last year, and that is hopefully winging its way north in the next week or two to get installed. So there is still very much a lot of work happening in the background in terms of supplying ice rinks in the UK. As it stands at the moment, I think we've only got 7 outstanding now that we need to target, and then if our list is correct and accurate and up to date, that will then mean that every ice rink in the UK has a defib on site.
And that's a fantastic kind of legacy from yourselves and from the event. And so how many has the campaign produced at the moment, and what are you up to?
So in total, through kind of combined efforts, we've been able to fund 7, and we've had 2 donated, so 9 in total.
Yeah, and that's 9 potential life-saving things that are there that weren't there previously.
And then on from that as well, we're hoping to gain funds to be able to support those defibrillators long term as well, because it's not just the purchase of the defibrillator. Because in a prime example is that in the case of the defibrillator that was used on Craig, when you use a defibrillator, the pads that are used that are put on the patient are single use only. And what that meant was that because the rink then didn't have spare pads, the defibrillator that was used on Craig was out of action for a little while. And so what we want to hope to achieve is to be able to have a pot of money so that as and when those defibrillators actually come into use, that we can then fund to support further buying of the defibrillator pads. Also,
there's a potential little pack that we put together which has like tough cuts for cutting off, shoulder pads in my case, elbow pads, shirts, so it's like a little pack that has a lot of other bits and pieces in it that can help for a defib to be used. Even if it's a disposable razor, if you've got someone particularly hairy, they can shave them, and just any
towels for drying.
Just removing any excuse for not being able to use them. Like Rick made a great point that they are almost idiot proof now. You turn them on and they tell you what to do. I think there could be an underlying fear to use them, but again, Rosie and Rick can tell you there's only certain rhythms that can be shocked anyway, and these machines put them on and they detect it. So they, you can't shock someone that doesn't need it. They do what they do. You just have to press a button as and when it tells you to.
Can't do any harm by using them, but but there can be harm done if you don't use them. So if in doubt, stick it on, and the defibrillator will analyze the rhythm that person is in. If it needs shocking, they'll shock. And when he says that they're idiot proof, I've got a video of him using it properly. So
there we go.
I mean, the next stage of this, so again, talking on the back of what we said with Rick, and you're going to be involved with this at the event itself, Rosie, is the kind of spreading out the knowledge about CPR and using a defib. So during the event, yes, the hockey is going to be going on, yes, the fundraising is going to be on, the bar is going to be open, but there's also going to be yourself and Rick and a few of our friends, Annie, are going to be there, and they're going to be offering everybody, players, officials, anybody who wants to kind of join on, the chance to learn CPR and put this literally a life skill to as many people as possible.
Yeah, we'd love for as many people as possible to come and just say hello, just to come and watch, come and have a go, and myself, Rick, and a paramedic called Lynn are going to be running continuous sessions across the Saturday and the Sunday. So we will be on hand with some Resus dolls, Resus Annie dolls. So you'll be able to get hands on, you'll get to have a try, and you'll be able to ask us questions. So anything that you're not sure about, anything that you've always wondered, whether it's the difference between a heart attack and a cardiac arrest, am I doing it too hard? How fast should I be doing it? We will make sure that we try and dispel as many myths as possible, because even if a defib isn't available, and you come across somebody that is in cardiac arrest, if they are getting good bystander CPR, then that massively increases their chances of survival. And so if at the very least we can teach everybody how to do really, really good CPR, then we've gone a little bit further in helping somebody and potentially saving a life. And that's what we want to get out of this.
Yeah, I think the event, it's a good place to do it at the All-Stars weekend as well. You know, people, and especially this year, you know, after last year, people are going to want to get hands-on and want to see, you know, how to do it, because they've seen it works. You know, I'm proof that it works. And, you know, there's going to be kids and families down there. You know, get the kids on as well. Make it a norm. Make it a, you know, it's not scary. You know, get rid of the stigma of it. Get rid of the, you know, the worry about doing it. Just giving people confidence and getting them to just get stuck in, get their hands on, because it can make a difference. You know, and the All-Star community know that firsthand.
I think we want to try and reassure as many people as possible as well, because what I very much got out of being there on that day last year is that a lot of people were really traumatized by what had happened to Craig. There were a lot of kids in the arena at the time. There were a lot of families, and I think for anybody that saw that, it must have been horrific. And so I think if we can help people to realise that, yes, whilst it was a very, very traumatic event that happened, that we need to try and take the scare factor away from that a little bit, and show that even though it is scary, it is still necessary for us to get hands on and try and help somebody if they are in need.
And if people are interested in the campaign to learn CPR, obviously we're still working out the finer details, Rosie. But how will they find out about where to look if they come to us on that weekend?
Yeah, so we have a Facebook page which is Last Night an All-Star Saved My Life, and so we'll be putting updates in the lead up to the weekend on our Facebook page, and as soon as we've got an exact location, we'll do that. And I imagine as well that the All-Stars team will be pushing that out on their social media as well. So we'll keep you updated as to exactly where in Sheffield we find ourselves.
Yeah, no, it's going to be brilliant. I say it's just another extension of what All Stars is. I say it's crazy to think when it started, 2008, it was 2 teams. It raised £3,500, and now it's grown into this. I mean, we've just hit the 100,000 today. There's still 4 weeks to the event. It's like it's crazy how big, and to say the kind of reach it's had from things like this, which happily have had a happy ending. The reach and the campaign and the extension of All Stars has been brilliant to see. In terms of yourself, Craig, we can't go without noticing that you're on one of our rosters again this year, returning again for Dreams Come True. You've unfinished business from last year.
Yeah, well, you know, I felt like I didn't really put in a shift last year. I was a bit rubbish, to be honest. So, you know, it's good to be back on, and I've been back playing. Started off with ball hockey. As soon as the doctor said, "Oh, you can play something like tennis," I thought, "Well, ball hockey is a bit like tennis." So we'll, you know, we'll jump on that, and jumped on with a few of the rec teams in Nottingham, and I was fortunate enough to play a couple of weeks ago. Ex-teammate and a friend of mine. He's him and his wife unfortunately lost their little girl. She was born premature, and they had an amazing event, and they've done some incredible fundraising. Literally, you know, a month after she passed, they had this game, and so I played in that, and we managed to raise, well, the whole thing together was like £10,000, but on the night alone, I think it was like £3,500, which all went back into neonates in Nottingham. So it's been good to get back, and I think it's, you know, a few more ice sessions for the weekend, but I'm sure I'll do a lot better than last year. I might even make day 2.
Yeah, I think there is a day 2 to be part of. In terms of your own kind of rehab, obviously, when we kind of left you in Cardiff, you obviously discharged, came home. How's the rehab been? Because I've obviously on social media seen bits and pieces as you were slowly getting back to exercising in the gym and things like that. But how's the rehab been for you, all told?
Yeah, no, it's been really good. Rosie will tell you, you know, I think I'm frustratingly keen to get back moving. You know, the doctors were saying that it's going to take, do 5 minutes walking a day and then have a rest, and then maybe the next week push it up to 10. But because of the excellent care I got, and I received on the ice, and it's as strange as it sounds, physically, I didn't feel too bad. Mentally, maybe it took a little while to dawn on me a little bit and actually, think it through. I think it was actually harder. It was a lot harder for Rosie and I'm sure a lot of the guys who were down there. But for me, it was just a strange scenario of it happened. Actually, do you know what? It could have been a lot worse. I feel pretty good at the time. So I managed to, get moving and get back going again. I don't sit still very well. So I was back in the gym, I think, 3 weeks on the treadmill walking. But,
much to my annoyance.
It was just having to get back to normality. And I think a combination of just a bit of stubbornness, but obviously, not pushing myself too much and actually listening to my body this time, rather than when I think I just need an inhaler, but in reality, it's a heart attack, and carry on playing, which is a bit stupid. But no, I couldn't sit. I think that's something, I had 1 or 2 friends who have been through things, or their family have been through things, and they've said, well, you bounced back really quick. What did you do? And I said, well, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to say do what I did, but I just didn't sit down. I wasn't going to let myself just sit and lie around. But that was only there because, what happened on the day and the support out of the day, and then obviously the support from Rosie and the family afterwards. It's been incredible. So I bounced back really quick and back in the team, and now I feel better than ever. It's amazing what a fully functioning heart feels like. Actually, it's really good.
I'm to a point now. Rick mentioned about he looks back on those funny moments, and we've got to a point now where our dark sense of humour can almost laugh about what had happened. And I think we're generally, as a couple, we're very pragmatic, and me doing the job that I do, I've got a similar sort of humour to Rick, and Craig being a chef, you have that same sort of humour. And
being in hockey changing rooms since I was 6 years old, and hospitality and stuff, it gives you that sort of slightly warped outlook to a degree. But in no way downplaying what happened. We completely get the severity of it, and like I said, I think mentally it didn't really kick in until maybe 6 or 7 months afterwards. Well, to be fair, it was the Adam Johnson incident, and I think Rosie will tell you the next day I was sort of in a bit of a daze, and not comparing the two, but I think that was the first time I sort of thought, that could have been me. That could have. Mm-hmm. That could have been me on the ice. And I think Rick sort of said, if it wasn't for a small, seconds and the guys making the right choices at the right times, and then it would have been. So I think that's when it actually dawned on me. I was thinking, well, actually, I'm super lucky, and that stuck with me for a little while. But physically, mentally now, I'm good, and I'm looking forward to getting back down with everyone and thanking everyone first and foremost, but actually showing that I'm not rubbish and I don't lie down on the job, and I can do 2 days of All-Stars still, even at 39.
We've aptly named it as Danger Nap, so we're hoping for no danger naps this year.
Danger naps.
But we fully expect that it's going to be a very emotional weekend for both of us, and for many of the people that were there last year. It's been a process over the last year. We've definitely. It's been a life-changing event for our family, but we now, in the kind of second half of it, as we approach the 1-year anniversary, Craig's first birthday, as we're calling it, we're very much in we need to take the moments that we get, and we're very grateful for the moments that we get, and the moments that the likes of Rick and Andy have been able to provide us as a family. And so I was very, very apprehensive at the thought of him playing hockey and getting back out there, but as he repeatedly tells me, it wasn't the hockey that killed him. So hopefully we'll be okay come August.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest.
Yeah, and as you heard, Rick sends his love, and B, has put a bounty on your head. He will put you through the boards as soon as he can see you. So if you're on the same line as Rick, watch out. But no, it's going to be great seeing you on the ice. And Rosie would much rather have brought you into the All Stars family in kind of a normal way. But you know, we've got you part of All Stars now. And as we say to people on these, once All Stars kind of gets a hold of you, it doesn't want to let go. So I think we've got you for life now. So you are an All Star, whether you're a reluctant one or not. But you're definitely an All Star.
It's a family I'm happy to be part of.
Yeah, and it's great to see you both. Looking forward to seeing you both in Sheffield. For those still wanting to find a reason to come along, if the 2 days of ice hockey and the All Stars family and the CPR and the whole thing isn't enough to get people to come down to Sheffield, what would you say to try and convince them to come down first weekend in August?
I mean, for me, it's just the community that it is. It's just fantastic. I think it's been my fourth or fifth one now, and I've always played for dreams come true, and it is like a really tight knit team. We only play with each other for 1 weekend a year, but as soon as the team goes up and the chat starts in the WhatsApp groups and whatever else, it's great. The camaraderie, and then outside of your own team, everyone's just there for a good weekend of the hockey's good. Some of us are a bit more competitive than others. I can't quite shake that a little bit. I quite like to still win. So I think it's a good mix. They've got some decent hockey, but more importantly, you've got a great community and a great group of people, really, which luckily Rosie got to experience last year, and they've invited her in and been involved with the WhatsApp chats and the banter, and it's a unique group. I know people might see themselves away from the event, but it's one of them sort of special weekends. Come down, have some fun, play, watch. It's good. It's an all-round good environment.
Yeah, no, sums up really well. Brilliant catch up, Craig and Rosie. Thank you very much. I say a fantastic story. The legacy continues with the defib campaign and the CPR campaign. We look forward to taking part in that as well in Sheffield. But thanks for your time. Enjoy the last 4 weeks of fundraising, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Sheffield.
Thanks for having us.
Look forward to it. Cheers, Craig.
Take care.